How's this for a family saga? Speaker Martin Romualdez is behind two attempts to change the Constitution, but it is his cousin, Senator Imee Marcos, leading the effort to stop both in the Senate. Senator Marcos has become a principal defender of China in public debates, while her younger brother, President Marcos Jr., is deepening political and security ties with the United States. And President Marcos remains very friendly with Vice President Sara Duterte, but Speaker Romualdez is preparing the ground for a presidential campaign to compete with VP Sara. What is going on with the Marcos family? Good evening. I'm John Nery, and you are in the public square. Is it really possible that there are three centers of gravity inside the Marcos family? Joining us tonight to make sense of today's chaotic era are Professor Arjan Aguirre, who teaches political science at the Ateneo de Manila University, and Sherwin De Vera, Editor-in-Chief of Baguio-based Northern Dispatch, or Nordis. Welcome, Professor Arj and Sherwin, and thank you for joining us in the public square.
Good evening, Sir John Nery and Sir Sherwin. Thank you for the invitation.
Good evening, Sir John. Thank you for this chance to also share our views regarding this matter.
Maybe I can start with a question for Professor Arj. Let's start with the conflict between Imee and Martin. Is that for real, or is there some multi-dimensional chess game being played?
Well, I think it is something that many people nowadays see as real, because don't forget that when it comes to the Marcos Romualdez dynasty, you have here two powerful families. On the one hand, you have the Marcoses, and on the other, have the Romualdezes. And Imee Marcos, for the longest time, sees herself as a very powerful, significant figure for the Marcos family. And I think her beef with Speaker Martin Romualdez is connected to her belief that she should be the one who should be in control of this powerful dynasty, the Marcos Romualdez dynasty. And for the on the part of Speaker Martin, I think this is also concerned about who should be in control of the dynasty. Remember, the Romualdez family also is a very powerful family in Leyte. Mm-hmm. So with this rise to power of Martin, I'm sure that this conflict between these two cousins is related to this. This mm-hmm. competing interests, competing views, competing visions about the future of the dynasty.
Yes, I think we've tended to forget, in the light of Imelda, that the that the Romualdezes were in fact a prominent political family even before Marcos became a senator. Yes. The first Ferdinand Marcos became a senator. Maybe we'll get back to that and the role that family history plays in all this, no? But Sherwin, I'd like to ask, is there a consensus in Northern Luzon about the conflict between Imee and Martin? I guess what I'm really asking is, what are people thinking about this conflict between the two cousins?
Sir Chen, generally, in Northern Luzon particularly, public opinion has always been influenced by how politicians, especially the dynasties, think about the national political landscape. Okay. So, yes, in terms of the conflict or the rift between the cousins, mas may tendensya pa rin naman yung publiko dito na to really back the Marcoses, particularly Imee. But there have been some indications also that several politicians and groups has been supporting charter change, the push for charter change. Lalo na, syempre, meron ding pagtutulak sa isang bahagi mula kay BBM. So that's the situation right now here. However, in terms ng political influence dito sa North Luzon, we cannot deny na they would still gravitate towards the Marcoses, no? Considering that Imee wields a certain influence dito at the local level. And it's important to note that in Ilocos Norte in particular, it was during the term of her son as governor that they were able to really ease out political opposition, no?
That's right.
In the province. So, and she has been all over the media and also visiting provinces and attending local events. So, kumbaga meron siyang grounding dito sa North Luzon.
And I think the political class knows that she is a natural politician. No? She's very good at the retail type of politics. You mentioned charter change. Maybe we can talk about that. No, Martin Romualdez has been pushing for changing the constitution, and Imee has been stopping it very vocally. For instance, about the supposed stealth nature of the public People's Initiative campaign. But where does President Marcos Jr. really stand here? Let me start with Professor Arjan, and then I'll ask Sherwin. We know that he has said something, but I get the sense that he really is weighing his options here. Where does he stand as far as charter change is concerned?
About the question of whether or not to change the 1987 Constitution, I'm sure that the president is very supportive of this move to change the 1987 Constitution. That's part of their plan. Okay, when he ran for the presidency, again, the goal here is to undo anything that is related to the EDSA project or EDSA 86 project that ousted his father. And the 1987 Constitution is one of the legacies of EDSA. So I think that's one of their targets, to change the 1987 Constitution. And I think the plan here pa nga is to make it as the unity constitution. So that I think is his legacy rin. So he's supportive of the plan of his cousin. That's why you will expect that in the long run or in the end, the president talaga will support this move to change the constitution.
Before my follow-up, Sherwin?
Yes, I agree with Professor Aguirre regarding on that matter. Actually, if you look at the foreign policy of Marcos now, which tends to gravitate towards the United States, the further liberalization of our economic policies has been part of previous administration's talks with the US. So I believe with his actions at the moment and his inkling to be more in good terms with the US and other Western countries, the push for the economic provisions in the Constitution would be supported by his administration.
Pero the one of the primary leaders against charter change now turned out to be Senator Imee Marcos. No, she has been quite scathing in the Senate inquiry into the People's Initiative, for instance. No, I think it's partly because, and we'll bring in the elephant in the room already. It's partly because she sees the attempt to change the constitution as a way to deny Sara Duterte her chance to become president. And I think she has a very strong sense of loyalty to the Duterte family. How do we make sense of this? I'll start with Sherwin and then Professor Arjan. How do we make sense of Imee's opposition? I get what Professor Aguirre said and also what Sherwin said. All right, this is part of the long-term plan. They need to undo what had been done to them, and that includes changing the constitution. But here you have one of the, in fact, the oldest politician among the Marcos family, oldest active politician, because Imelda is no longer active as a politician, is saying, "Teka muna, let's not do this." How do we make sense of that? Sherwin first.
Um, Imee has always been an independent-minded person in terms of political strategy within the Marcos family. If we look at his historical actions, was during the administration of Macapagal Arroyo, he sustained being in the opposition despite some concessions with their family. Um, in terms of this current situation right now, I think Imee is more of weighing how popular are her decisions.
Mhm.
Note that it's not only charter change that she has actively opposed. No,
Mhm.
um, even the conduct of Balikatan in Ilocos Norte, she
Mhm.
raised some issues regarding the matter,
Mhm.
which was strongly supported then by the administration. So, tingin ko, nagpa-factor in dito yung pagwe-weigh niya ngayon sa public opinion, and she
Mhm.
has to show herself as one of that, being a balanced person on all matters regarding
Mhm.
policies and everything in the Marcos government.
Professor Arjan.
Well, I'd like to think that this is something personal again.
Mhm.
Parang it's okay to change the constitution as long as this is something that is not spearheaded by, her cousin or perhaps yung mga rivals niya.
Mhm.
Uh, I also like to think that if something nga happens in the near future na mapapalitan yung constitution, I don't think na maapektuhan yung next na pwedeng tumakbo for president because may transition pa eh, transition
Okay.
period. So
Okay.
hindi siguro maapektuhan yung immediate na mga politicians natin. Pero again, I'm going back to my point kanina na this is something personal, meaning I don't think that she would allow, that her cousin will outshine her sa
Mhm.
ganitong situation we're in. I really think that Senator Imee kasi thinks na siya dapat yung alam mo yun, in control talaga ng dynasty, ng mga discussion given na siya yung Marcos
Mhm.
na senator or perhaps siya
Mhm.
yung sabi nga kanina ni Sherwin na lumalabas na pinaka cunning na Marcos
Mhm.
politician. In fact, during her term as governor, nung congresswoman siya, marami talaga siya na-accomplish kumpara dun sa kanyang kapatid. So, dun nakakonect yun eh, na when it comes to, changing the constitution, hindi lang talaga siya benta dun sa plano ng pinsan niya. Na
Mhm.
their plan is to change the constitution touching on the political provisions. Tapos nung nagkaroon ng issue or ng clamor yung mga tao, nagalit yung mga tao, biglang nag-limit sila sa economic provisions. Tapos
Mhm.
they try to, 'di ba, influence din yung mga senators na
Mhm.
suportahan kasi nagkagulo ang coalition eh.
Mhm.
Para ang Senate, 'di ba, nagalit sa House because of yun nga yung People's Initiative, yung focus sa political provisions. So nakita mo dito yung dynamics na bakit biglang pumapalit or biglang nag-flip flop yung yun nga yung mismong parang decision or yung focus or yung priority ni Senator Imee. Ako ang tingin ko dun is this is something personal. So connected din siya dun sa kanyang loyalty with the Duterte family na dito
Yeah,
sa
can you talk
Marcos
about more? Can you talk more about that?
yun nga dito sa Duterte family may kita nyo na nakakuha talaga siya ng alay dito. And
Mhm.
she's one of the architects of this unity team. So
Mhm.
siya yung nakipag-usap sa Duterte family. Connected dito yung pagiging outsider niya dun sa Marcos Romualdez dynasty na I think nakahanap din siya ng sabihin natin competitor dun or yung mga rival dun na
Mhm.
mga influential figures. So for example, yung wife ni President Bongbong Marcos na si Liza Araneta Marcos, I'm sure meron
Mhm.
silang mga pagkakaiba-iba mga decision, mga priorities. So naging mas comfortable siya do sa kabila sa Duterte family. So doon pinapakinggan siya, doon nabibigyan ng parang halaga yung kanyang mga input.
Sherwin, do you think Senator Imee Marcos has presidential ambitions?
Hindi malayo yun, Sir John, no? I think at her stature, she's eyeing for that, no? Maybe not now, but in the future, meron siyang ganung tanaw. Pero maganda ring i-address yung isa pang usapin nga dun sa loyalty niya with the Dutertes.
Mhm.
Kasi if we look back during the term of President Duterte, aside from, really giving a push doon sa rehabilitation ng kanilang family, approving the burial of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos sa libingan ng mga bayani. Kung maalala natin, si President Sara si Vice President Sara ngayon, and that time was one of our allies when the congressional panel was having an inquiry regarding doon sa RA 7171, no? In fact, nakudeta nga doon si former House of Representative
Alvarez.
Alvarez, oo, di ba? So may ganun talagang ding political dynamics and I think political loyalty na na-built sa mga ganung pangyayari between the Dutertes and Senator Imee Marcos.
The reason I asked that question about her presidential ambition is it did not occur to me, no, until Arjan spoke of this personal rivalry with Speaker Martin Romualdez, no, that she sees herself as the real power behind the throne, so to speak. She really is quite savvy when it comes to retail politics. I know that opposition politicians, I remember opposition politicians that I've spoken to say good things about her, no, that they can work with her on particular bills or projects, and so maybe she has that self-image, and now she sees that slipping away. But this year she turned 70, still younger than Duterte was, but by 2028 she will be 73 or 74. She cannot wait any longer than that, no? So I have a question mark about that, but I'm really struck by the possibility that no matter how late in the day, she has that kind of ambition. Can we talk more about the Dutertes? How are they factoring into this conflict between the different factions of the Marcos Romualdez family? Professor?
Well, my understanding here is that they know that this tension exists. Meaning they know that Imee is not okay with her cousin, and I'm also sure that the family also knows that Imee is not okay with her brother and her sister-in-law. I know that the family already noticed this since 2016. When the current president ran for vice president, because during that time, Senator Imee was the one who was very busy, talking to people. She was the operator, who made things possible for her brother. That's why I think that's where the irritation, the beef, okay, comes from with what is happening nowadays. Na alam mo yun, naghirap siya for so many years. Operator siya, she made things happen. In fact, yung 2016 na yun, nag-deliver ang Ilocos sa pagkapanalo ni President Duterte, and doon may kita na yung Luzon na nakapag-deliver sa pagkapanalo ni Duterte. Makita mo na si Imee Marcos yung nag-operate noon. So yung Duterte dynasty, I'm sure they capitalize on that parang conflict or yung tension within the coalition or within the dynasty, and I think they like the situation na nasa kanila si Imee, because yun nga, Imee is the one who make things happen. Tapos yun nga, sinabi ko na kanina, she's so cunning, tactician talaga siya. She has so many friends, and yun nga, I think naging factor din siya dun sa mismong alliance with the Arroyos. So Kumbaga parang
Yes.
isa siya sa mga major players na nag-pull in ng mga major, power players din for 2022 election. So ano siya, asset siya ng Duterte dynasty.
Sherwin, the Duterte family have started to criticize very aggressively First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos. I'd like to know what is her reputation in Northern Luzon. Uh, do people see her as a separate, center of gravity? Do they see her as very closely allied with her husband? What's the thinking about her?
Um, Generally, in Northern Luzon, for the past years, the First Lady has been a prominent figure in
Mhm.
politics. But, in recent years, or even during the campaign, many of those individuals, including some politicians, have been really looking at the First Lady as someone to be a power uh, that people will have to recognize that could really influence the decisions of the president. And I think throughout this administration, the first lady has made her presence felt, no, not only in the political sphere, but even when it comes to dealings with other matters, including how to, for example, how to look at things, the opinions of the public, how to deal with the business community and others.
Speaking of presidential ambition, Professor Arj, is there a viable path to the presidency for Speaker Martin Romualdez? I mean, we just saw the latest Pulse Asia
Well,
survey conducted in March. Kulelat, ano?
Well, I actually think that the Romualdez family is planning to field a is planning to convince the wife Yeda to run this midterm elections as senator,
Mhm.
uh, just to make sure that the Romualdez surname is mainstream, okay,
Okay.
at the national level. So I think this is for 2028. So
Okay.
that's my thinking about
Mhm.
what could be his plan. Okay, just in case he thinks of running for a higher position. Remember, he already ran in
16.
2016 as
Yeah.
senator, but
Mhm.
he lost. Okay, so
Mhm.
I think for this midterm elections, the plan is to again make the Romualdez surname something that that is familiar to many voters. So my sensing here is that Yeda, uh,
Mhm.
is a potential candidate. Just just for that purpose.
What is it, Congresswoman Yeda, or would Speaker Romualdez himself try to run for the Senate in 2025?
No, I think he will stay as House Speaker because obviously House Speaker is more powerful than than a
Mhm.
senator. So I think Yeda will be positioned as as a senator for 2025. And again, the goal here is just to make sure that the Romualdez surname
Name. Mhm.
is mainstreamed or is made something popular, especially for the up for the next election that is for 2028. So this is meant to prepare the people about this upcoming or potential run of Martin in 2028.
This reminds me of the political fortunes of another uh, political family, the Tulfos. No, so um, Congressman Erwin Tulfo is doing very well in the Senate election preference uh, surveys. No, he might top the 2025 elections, and if he does that, that will, following your logic, keep the Tulfo surname up there, right?
Yes,
In preparation for his
yes.
brother, Senator Rafi Tulfo, who is topping the Pulse Asia presidential election survey, no, together with Sara Duterte, as the preferred choice for president. No? Sherwin, can I ask you first? Uh, ano ang tingin ng karamihan sa Northern Luzon sa mga Tulfo? Uh, Nagsusumbong din ba sila kay Tulfo dyan?
Oo, sikat din dito yung isumbong mo kay Tulfo. No? Pero no, we can base the support or the electoral base of Tulfo based on the result of previous election, which is there were over considerable votes that Northern Luzon delivered. No? Pero the thing about Northern Luzon is they would historically yan talaga kapag nandiyan yung mga Marcoses, they would always gravitate kung sino yung susuportahan nila. But we also have to consider the landscape here na sa mga nakaraan din, it's sila yung nililigawan no? Especially the political dynasty. Sila yung nililigawan ng mga national politicians and magmamatter kung sino nga yung pipiliin nila na susuportahan. And it always boils down to sino yung tingin nilang mas magbe-benefit sila and at the same time, sino yung makakapagbigay ng mga resources for them.
Sir, nabanggit mo earlier, no? Yung opposition ni Imee sa balikatan exercises dyan. Yung Philippine relations with China and with the US is a flashpoint din, no, for the internal conflict among the Marcoses. Imee has become one of the principal defenders of China, although she has specifically said she resents that perception. No? And I think Martin has traveled often with the president and is, I think, very much in favor of a closer relationship with the United States. Professor Arjan, are these two superpowers waging a proxy war within the Marcos family?
Yes, I think that's the best way to see one of the effects of this infighting within the coalition, that external actors like foreign powerful political actors out there would exploit this moment. Okay, and I'm sure that China is siding with the Duterte family or the dynasty, and of course the United States of America has benefited so much. Okay, with this new administration. So we can also expect that for the midterm elections that these powerful actors would be monitoring the development, especially with the new alignments in the Senate and of course the House, because again the future of their interest is at stake. Remember, if Sara manages to win in the 2028 elections, that would good things would come again for China. So again, that is something that many people nowadays are thinking of when it comes to the effect of this infighting with the international community.
Sherwin, when Senator Imee Marcos criticized the holding of the balikatan exercises up north, nagkaroon ba ng traction yung issue? What is public opinion? What is the public's opinion regarding closer military ties with the United States?
Generally, kung sa Northern Luzon, merong mas preference talaga yung the public opinion to have a stronger ties with the United States. No? Pero when Imee raised concern regarding the balikatan ni Ilocos Norte, marami kasi sang pumosisyon and supported her on that matter. Kasi malinaw yung mga naging basis niya this time, no? And one would be the disruption of livelihood among the fisher folks, the fishing communities in the areas. There were also some groups, syempre, that were very vocal on the opposition regarding the the conduct of the Balikatan exercises. Um, Isa pang dapat nating i-consider, syempre, in terms dun sa sentiments when it comes to the international relations. Maliban dun sa napakalakas na nationalism, no, na atin yung
Mhm.
West Philippine Sea,
Mhm.
hindi pa nakakalimot yung mga mamamayan ng Northern Luzon that most of the black sand mining companies that ravaged the shorelines of Ilocos and Cagayan Valley
Mhm.
were from China, no? So nandun din yung isang sentimentong yon na nagtutulak ng mas malakas na inkling towards a better ties, stronger ties with the US.
All these questions related to the Marcoses and then a few about the Dutertes. I did not want to create the misimpression other political actors outside of these two families have no role to play. For instance, I think that former Senator Sonny Trillanes has been quite adroit at feeding into Duterte's fears about the International Criminal Court. No? Kung mag-press con siya, parang alam mong nakikita mo, parang talagang sinusundot niya yung Duterte family. No? Can we talk about the political opposition? Given this infighting among the Marcoses and Romualdezes, saan lulugar ang political opposition? Professor Arch first and then Sherwin.
Well, given that there's this, cracks within the coalition, again, the assumption here is that the opposition should be exploiting this moment, should be using this moment for them to, to strengthen their ranks, to recruit, to prepare for the midterm elections. When I say exploit the moment, that should include, those opportunities, moments wherein they would, certainly benefit from any political decisions of either of the two. So for example, when the Marcos government suddenly entertained the idea of, resurrecting the investigation of, the bloody drug war, cooperating with the ICC. Again, that's something that is beneficial to them. When the Marcos government again decided to grant the bail of Senator Laila de Lima, again that again benefited the opposition. So again, that's number one. They should know when to to move, when to act, and use this opportunity to strengthen their ranks. So for number two, they should also use this moment for them to uh, introduce new issues. To make them as as a political actor who is also in control of the environment. Meaning they should present themselves as the alternative. I think this is one of the topics that you have also covered in the past, that the political alternative or the third force is something that is viable, especially if you have these two viable opposing forces dominating the public imagination, the discussion. So the opposition should be floating new issues. They should be talking about real issues of the day that these two are failing to discuss.
Sherwin, anong dapat gawin ng opposition?
Um, no, I agree with Professor Arjan, no? But kung sa bahagi ko, tingin ko ang pinakamahalaga ngayon is the number two, no? Presenting the issues that the two opposing sides are failing to address, because it is only by exposing these failures that they can actually present alternatives and strengthen themselves. Kasi yung strengthening nila kahit sa nakaraan, di ba, if you look at the trend, they try to gather the people, no, around them, but the unity always boils down to ano nga ba yung common platforms natin. And I think by presenting issues and address and providing alternatives, mas dito makikita ng opposition sino-sino among the sa political spectrum yung maaari nilang mahamig pa.
Sherwin, so we know what the opposition needs to do. Are they in fact doing it?
I think at the moment there are some quarters sa opposition na are actually very good at doing it, no? Let's take for example former Senator Leila de Lima has been very vocal and consistent regarding her human rights advocacy and the
Mhm.
failures of the administration to address the issues from the Duterte drug war and even on attacks on activists. No, there is also the progressive bloc also in Congress. No, that has been very consistent with presenting
Mhm.
alternative positions that the current administration has always tried to downplay. So meron namang mga mahuhusay na bahagi ng opposition. And in fact, yung naging hakbang nila nitong mga nagdaang buwan, no, to meet up, talk about how to really face the challenges head on, and to find ways of common grounds, no, despite the differences in opinion, ay isang malaking hakbang doon sa pagko-consolidate nung opposition to really have a say on the policies and on how the maybe midterm election would turn out.
Professor Arch, as far as the midterms next year are concerned, I understand that the opposition has three candidates definitely running for the Senate. Um, Senator Kiko, Senator Bam, and Attorney Chel Jokno. They've been making the rounds together with incumbent opposition Senator Risa Ontiveros. What do you think of what they're doing now, and should Lenny Robredo join them?
Well, number one, I think they're doing good in terms of handling, issues of the day carefully. It's not a good idea to side, with either of the two, especially with this open war going on. That's my advice to, the opposition, not to side with either of the two. Again, get the gains, meaning celebrate, if ever something beneficial happens to them, but again, do not side, because it's gonna be bloody, and it's gonna cost them so much for the midterm elections. Again, present themselves as the alternative, and I guess that's something that the opposition is doing good nowadays, kasi they're very careful talaga. They're very careful, especially when it comes to the issues of the day, like Chacha.
Mhm.
Uh, ano sila, very objective. They're not doing ad hominem. And if I may add, Senator Risa Ontiveros, don't forget, she's also
Mhm.
careful, in handling issues like, the current investigation involving Pastor
Kibuloy.
Kibuloy. Ano
Mhm.
she's not, attacking, personalities that are connected to, these two powerful dynasties. Kasi alam niya na ad hominem na yun eh. Just focus on Kibuloy, focus on the issue. So to me, this is something good. This is something that the opposition should continue doing, especially as they prepare for the midterm elections. Kasi the people also know they're also looking for politicians na sa tingin nilang pwedeng umupo sa Senate or sa House na alam mo yun, magpoprotekta talaga sa interest nila. And with this, squabbling going on, alam din ng mga tao na napaka-toxic ng bangayan na nagiging ad hominem, nagiging mudslinging na lang. So again, for the opposition, wag silang sasawsaw. Yun lang yung parang gusto ko i-highlight.
Professor Arj, earlier you talked of the possibility of a third force, no, coming together, but you referred to the opposition. Is it possible that the third force will be led by, the Tulfos, for instance? They will find a wedge issue that will drive the Dutertes and Marcoses further away from each other and ride that all the way
Um,
to
I don't
Malacanang.
think that they will join the third force, because for the Tulfos, especially now that that
Mhm.
they enjoy this popularity, they want to
Mhm.
be in control. And don't forget that there are other senatoriables out there who are
Mhm.
also popular, like
Mhm.
Senator Soto.
Mhm.
Remember, tatakbo siya for these elections.
That's right.
And I don't think na magsaside din siya either sa Marcoses or the Dutertes. I'm sure mag-ano siya, mag-independent. So I think the third force will come from there. Okay? Senator Soto, sila Senator Panfilo Lacson, yung mga returnees na ayaw mag-side. So I think the opposition should grab this as an opportunity to build on this, third force na samahan sila nung mga independent, candidates na meron ding national constituency or support. Like, Manny Pacquiao.
Mhm.
If the opposition talaga is, very strategic about this midterm election, they should, be, courting these candidates. Sila Manny Pacquiao, sila Senator Soto, sila Senator Pampilo Lacson, sila yung magiging third force. Si Erwin Tulfo, I don't think that, he will be needing a third force. Kasi kahit tumakbo siya independent, mananalo siya eh. But again, the curse there is that he will think of himself as something na he should be in control. And I'm sure, these figures will not allow that. So yun yung magiging tension niya. That's why kung gusto niya maging possible yon na makasama siya doon sa grupong yon, he has to control himself. He has to work with them, work as a team. So yun yung gusto ko makita with the Tulfos na super popular ngayon, super taas sa mga surveys na handa ba silang makipag-work sa ibang, political figures out there.
Kanino sila susumbong, ano? We're at the 40-minute mark. Allow me to ask two more questions, no? If you will. The first is, so this is for the two of you. Professor Arj, you spoke of the EDSA project earlier, no? I'd like to know, what is the future of the EDSA narrative or the EDSA project in the light of the conflict within the Marcos family? Is the EDSA project going to be ironically saved because of this infighting? Or is that the medicine that the Marcoses and the Romualdezes will use to heal their self-inflicted wounds?
Well, yun nga po eh. It's very sad that, this very noble or yung napakagandang vision ng EDSA project is being used, is being politicized by these two dynasties para lang sa isang, parang political agenda. Yung future ng EDSA 86 project, I'm sure napopoliticize siya ngayon, but with politicians outside these two camps, like local government officials, I'm sure it will continue to flourish pa rin. Remember, maliban sa mga national figures, don't forget that we also have local politicians, mga mayors natin, who live up to that, parang principle or yung vision na yung EDSA 86 project. Ang ibig sabihin kasi nito, consultative governance, alam mo yung participatory governance, talaga sineselebrate nila yung transparency, accountability. These are motherhood statements or concepts, abstract concepts to some. But, in reality, these are happening na eh. I mean, these things are happening na. At ako, naniniwala ako doon. Kung sa national, napopoliticize, I'm sure sa local hindi. At ako, mas okay pa ako na sa local nangyayari kasi mas nararamdaman ng mga tao.
Sherwin?
Yes, yung legacy ng EDSA People Power, hindi basta-basta kayang mawala niyan eh. Despite doon sa efforts, no, we are seeing pushbacks din kasi, no, doon sa efforts to really erase the history, no, and kung bakit ito nangyari. Nakikita natin yung mga institutional pushback sa hindi lang sa hanay ng mga historians, academe, and kahit doon sa mga ilang political figures ay nananatili, no? Kung bakit, sinabi nga ni Professor Arjan, kinakatawan kasi nito yung mga slogans din dinidemand ngayon ng panahon, no? The accountability of public officials, transparency in governance, the participation of the people. Mas maa-isolate sila kapag yung mismong ganun na reflection for the EDSA people power ang bibirahin nila, no? Ang pipilitin nilang walain. Kasi pinangahawakan na siya ngayon ng mamamayan.
Last question, Sherwin first, and then Arjan. Three centers of gravity, no, with their competing gravitational pulls, creating a chaotic era, to borrow the idea from the three-body problem that's showing on Netflix now, no? How do you see this infighting within the Marcos Romualdez family playing out? How will it be resolved? What will resolution look like?
Ang tingin ko, once there's an outside force that would threaten their rule, no? As a family, whether it's the Marcoses or the Romualdez, ang tendency pa rin yan ay magkaisa sila. No? There's nothing much sweeter than holding the power. Eh. So, para sa pamilyang Marcoses and Romualdez, tingin ko ang mananatili na mapapagkakaisahan nila or common ground would be to maintain their hold at the moment. No? So once a real threat appears doon sa kanilang control at the moment, magkakaisa din sila. At tingin ko kaya nila iset aside yung mga differences to really face that threat.
Thank you. And Professor Arj?
Ako, ang view ko dyan is that it's gonna be, toxic pa rin in the coming years, especially leading to 2028. It will never end as long as, those competing interests, those competing, visions continue to, to parang undermine, one another. So, tama rin yung sinabi ni Sherwin na kaya nila itong gawin kasi walang threat eh. Pero I'm sure kasi that in the coming years, walang threat. May tulfo na lumalabas, but again, don't forget that these are dynasties, meaning you're not just talking about, one person, two person here. And the tulfo family that is emerging to be a dynasty, obviously is, still young, okay? Hindi pa sila ganun kalali. May congressman sila. Yeah, marami silang congressman. Pero compared dun sa etong Duterte and Marcoses na talagang local government, House, tapos Senate. So, yun yung aking magiging view. And ang talo dito ang taong bayan, which is, the sad part of the story na with this endless squabbling, and, this is endless struggle for power, nadidelay yung mga services, alam mo yan, napupoliticize yung mga projects, napupoliticize yung ating dapat na serbisyo sa ating bayan. And don't forget that, we're still recovering, okay? Economically speaking. And halos lahat ng mga ginagawa nila connected dun sa power struggle nila eh. So nakakalungkot that papasok na tayo sa second half ng Marcos presidency and hindi pa natin nararamdaman yung recovery na hinahanap natin.
On that somber note, thank you, Arjan Aguirre, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Ateneo de Manila University, and Sherwin De Vera, Editor-in-Chief of Northern Dispatch. This has been a stimulating discussion. Again, thank you. That's it for us tonight. The next step for engaged citizens, as always, is to take a more active part in rebuilding our democracy. See you in the public square. This is John Nery. Thank you and good night.